We have a brand new stimulus proposal that has been brought forth on December 1st of 2020 from a prominent group of Republicans and Democrats. And there are some serious concessions that have been made by both sides. So the big question, are you getting another stimulus check? And if so, when? Well, we're going to answer that question and more in today's episode. Hello, I'm Joshua Roberts, attorney at law. That is the Inquisitive Monkey, and you are watching Lawyer Up. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at the history of the stimulus proposals and packages for 2020, and then we're going to look at the newest proposal that has just come out. We're going to look at what's in it, and we're going to look at what's not in it. And most importantly, we're going to look at whether you are going to get another stimulus check from the government. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share me on social media. And if you want to support the channel, remember we've got merch. You can find it at bossindustries.co. Just click on the link below. We've got hats, we've got shirts, and all of the proceeds from all the Lawyer Up merchandise goes back into making this a better channel. So let's do a quick history of 2020 and the stimulus packages that we have seen. Now, we all know that it starts in February of 2020 with the COVID-19 outbreak. We've got people getting shut down. We've got stay-at-home orders. We have the beginning of the dumpster fire that has become 2020, right? Well, in March, Congress passes and President Trump signs into law the CARES Act. That was a $3 trillion stimulus package. The highlights of that included unemployment benefits supplemented by the federal government. Remember, people were getting the state unemployment benefits for their state, plus an extra $600 per week that was being subsidized or paid for by the federal government. We also had the PPP program, that is the Paycheck Protection Program. It was a massive program for small businesses to give them what were essentially forgivable loans. We had lots of money being poured into healthcare, and at that time it was being poured into the PPEs, the personal protective equipment. It was being poured into testing and the research and development into vaccines. And of course, maybe the most major component to most people was the $1,200 stimulus check that was sent to each qualifying adult. In addition, families that had children would also get an extra $500 per child unless they made too much money and didn't qualify. So that was March. Then we move through April and we get to May. And the Democrats then come up with a new proposal for stimulus money. This was referred to as the HEROES Act, and it was another $3 trillion stimulus bill. Now, this bill passed the House of Representatives, which is controlled by the Democrats. But when it got over to the Senate, which is controlled right now by the Republicans, it was shot down. Essentially, the Republicans said, now, wait a minute. We just passed a huge stimulus package. We need to give it time to play out. We need to see if the stimulus package that we've already put into play will resolve the issue. Now, remember, it was at this point in time when most people were thinking, well, the coronavirus will run its course and it'll be gone by summer. So everybody was kind of pumping the brakes at this point to see what the initial package was going to do to the economy. So we go through June and there's still trouble, there's still coronavirus, and we get to July. And now the Republicans are like, okay, we need to do something. So they came up with their own package that they called the HEALS Act. And this was about a $1 trillion package. Now, this didn't pass either house because the Democrats shot it down immediately as not doing enough. So the HEALS Act from the Republicans was taken off the table pretty quickly. Then, if you recall, Congress went on summer break. And when they came back, we had all kinds of other troubles. We had the George Floyd incident, we had rioting, we had protests, and all kinds of issues, all kinds of racial issues. We had talks of defunding the police, and that kind of got the attention of Congress through late summer. Well, we get to August, and Congress hadn't done anything, so Donald Trump took things into his own hands and issued 4 executive orders. And if you recall, they included a payroll tax deferment where you wouldn't have to pay payroll taxes until 2021. Now, this wasn't a forgiveness, it was only a deferment, so not everyone took advantage of it. Secondly, he extended the federal government supplementing of unemployment benefits. There was an additional $400 this time to be added on to each state's whatever they had for their state level of unemployment compensation. Of that $400, the federal government was to pay $300, and each state had to kick in $100 for that supplement. The third executive order stayed student loan payments. Now, a stay is not forgiveness. That simply basically said you didn't have to make it this month, and it was taken and moved to the end of the loan. So students still had to pay it. They just didn't have to pay it in 2020 during the period of the stay. And last but not least, the fourth executive order extended the moratorium on evictions. So people that were in rental situations, certain situations, were prohibited from being evicted while under this executive order. Since August, we really haven't seen a whole lot of action at all on the stimulus front. Congress and the government got kind of caught up in the 2020 presidential election, and that kind of took everyone's attention until now. On December 1st of 2020, a bipartisan group, that is Republicans and Democrats, have come together with a proposal where each side has made significant concessions to arrive at what they both hope will stimulate the economy into 2021. Now, this is a $900 billion package, so it is smaller than the HEROES Act as proposed. It is also smaller than the HEALS Act that was proposed by the Republicans. And it contains 2 major compromises. First and foremost, there is $160 billion that's being set aside for state and local governments. This is something that Democrats really wanted and something that the Republicans initially opposed. The proposal also contains litigation protection for businesses, for, say, restaurants, for schools, for churches, for large organizations that might otherwise get sued if somebody contracted coronavirus while in their establishment. So the Democrats had been opposed to that kind of litigation protection, but it's in this new proposal as a temporary protection for those types of businesses in the environment of COVID-19. Now, other major components of this proposal would be additional unemployment supplementation by the federal government that would extend beyond January 1st when it's now scheduled to expire, and it would go all the way through the first quarter of 2021 or until April 1st of 2021. There would also be another $300 billion poured into the PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program, and this would be to help those small businesses that have been really hit by the coronavirus with multiple shutdowns and or in those industries like bars, restaurants, movie theaters that really never were able to reopen and fully reestablish themselves. There would be additional money poured into the transportation bailout, as they are calling it, primarily for airports and airlines. However, it extends to all industries, including rail, bus. Any type of mass transport would be potentially benefited from this additional stimulus money. There would be $82 billion poured into education to help offset public schools going back to school, back to seated learning, also expenses relative to virtual learning, and the additional expenses they have with trying to keep all of the teachers and the staff and the students safe while they're in these educational settings. There was, of course, substantial money going into vaccine distributions. testing, tracing, those types of things. We've shifted gears from trying to find the vaccine to now trying to distribute it to the population. And last but not least, there's money for housing assistance, there's money for student loan assistance, there's money for child care assistance, and healthcare worker assistance. And this is to help healthcare organizations that are having to pay additional employees and pay overtime to workers to care for all of the COVID-19 patients throughout the country. Now, what about the stimulus check? What about your $1,200 check? Well, unfortunately, it's not in there. And that's kind of a kick in the teeth to the American citizens who were really expecting another round of stimulus money. Republicans talked about it, Democrats talked about it, and I think a lot of American people were relying on an additional stimulus check coming out. But so far, that is not in this particular proposal. And when you look at the price tag of the original round of stimulus checks, it was $290 billion, about $300 billion. And that would be a third of the entire package that's been proposed by the Republicans and Democrats with this particular potential bill. And when they were asked about this, they gave a joint statement that said this particular stimulus package is designed to get us through January, February, and March. Now, if the new Congress in 2021 and Joe Biden decide to do something in addition, they would definitely look at it. But they said they weren't trying to go too far with the stimulus package, just trying to help the American people out in the first quarter of 2021. So will this pass Congress? Well, who knows? Of significance is that the government still hasn't passed the budget for 2021. So not only do they have to address stimulus issues, but they're going to have to pass a budget by December 11th or face a government shutdown. So there are a lot of fireworks potentially at play over the next couple of weeks in the United States. So that's the episode, and that's the update on a potential next round of stimulus money for the economy. Unfortunately, as it stands right now, it does not contain any type of stimulus check for you or your family. If you've enjoyed this update, hit the like button. If you've got something to say, comment below. And remember, if you want more information such as this or law related, subscribe to the channel. And as always, I love it when you share me on social media. Again, my name is Joshua Roberts, attorney at law, and you've been watching Lawyer Up.
Send lawyers, guns, and money.